And this is Friday Night Apologetics. You can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm an apologist. Alright, so welcome to Friday Night on the Christian Anarchist channel. And, well, this is a hangout for the Apologetics. So we're here to answer any questions. I'm here at least to answer any questions that people are having. And basically, y'all are also going to be my slaves to hear me rant a bit. So y'all will be forced to subdue some torture of hearing my voice just ramble on about certain topics that I may encounter occasionally. So I also have a nice, interesting panel with me. We have Gary. Haven't had him on in a while. I mean, if for some of you that are familiar with earlier content from like last year, he's been on a couple times. Say hello, Gary.
Hello, I was sick. I was in the hospital from November to New Year's Day, and then I was in a nursing home. I thought I was going to go home, but they sent me to a nursing home. I finally convinced them to let me out about February, and then I fell and broke my arm. So it was great.
All right.
Otherwise, I did want to mention that disco is not breakdancing.
He's mentioning that because our other guy that you're familiar with, General Han Solo, is telling me to breakdance. So I don't know, maybe what freestyle rap? I'm sitting here spitting on the mic. Better watch out because I'm gonna get right. All right, see, that's about as far as I'm gonna do without embarrassing my white self.
Originally, that was John Travolta.
And what are we doing?
Wait, hold on. Who said that?
That would be me.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Oh, nice.
You're muting until he's finished with the introduction, Denise.
Hold on. Okay. Hold on, nice. I'm just going over the panel right now. But yeah, we have Solo, the physicist from Australia, who is also a good Christian and a very good friend of mine in apologetic matters, especially concerning the evolutionary creation model or the theistic evolution model. The matters involving the flat Earth, and he is also, well, recently he seems to have had an interest in going against the Jesus mythicist deal. So I don't know, maybe we might cover that depending on who shows up. Then we have Wayne Fillmore, who has recently come to the community, like maybe a few months ago, and he's gotten a pretty good start. He's an old Earth creationist, and, well, he's Wayne Fillmore. What's up, Wayne?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Alright, now that we got those two out, let's get the others involved. Okay, we first off have the annoying atheist. Look at it. It is a crocodile and a squirrel.
It is referred to as the mighty crocosquirrel.
The crocosquirrel, ladies and gentlemen, and it is
like a crocoduck, only with a squirrel. It's all good.
Exactly. So this is why the annoying atheist is so annoying. I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I look when I wake up, and I see the crocosquirrel, the annoying atheist, and it's like, "Hi there." That's how annoying this is. Anyways, all humor aside, welcome aboard.
Yeah, I'm always down for a good debunk.
All right, and then our last guest is Anase, however you say it, without trying to sound like a sexual position.
I was not aware that my name sounded like a sexual position. Thank you for informing me of that.
Which reminds me, viewer discretion may be advised for some of the younger ones that decide to watch this, but at least we don't have that right now because we only have one viewer, which is probably that one guy that just stalks me so he can make videos saying, "Oh, this guy's a heretic." Anyways.
Yes, Christian on Christian violence, the best kind of violence.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely! It's absolutely brilliant.
Make sure you get your popcorn ready, because I'm.
I actually do have popcorn. I could even go get actual popcorn.
I got a bottle of scotch.
Well, let's talk about that then, since
even better.
That up. not the Scotch part, but let's talk about this Christian on Christian thing, because I'm actually going to, while we're doing this, might try to work on the script for a new video. Finally,
I got a
original
bottle of
content.
oxycodone.
Hmm?
I
Wait,
got
what?
a bottle of oxycodone, but you know it's a prescription. It's real.
Well, as long as it's
Ah.
prescription, that's okay. But anyways, I recently saw this video from this guy named JackSmack77, and if anyone's familiar with this guy, this is a whole load of crazy from this guy. He doesn't go after atheists. He mainly goes after Calvinists, Arminians, Roman Catholics, Universalists. Basically, he's Jack Chick.
On steroids.
Exactly.
Wait,
Hmm?
Chick as in from the Chick tracks?
Yes, but
Ah.
this is basically like someone who like has that same mentality as Jack Chick would. And
Really quick for anyone who might not know, Jack
Mhm.
Chick makes a bunch of like comics and stuff, and he's featured. His work is featured on the Bible Reloaded fairly often. They just read over it and kind of make fun of it, and sometimes deconstruct it a little bit. So there's some information for anyone who doesn't know.
Hey, you watched the Bible Reloaded too? Oh wow.
Yeah, I watch a lot of those
You kind of wonder.
channels.
You kind of wonder, who actually doesn't watch the Bible Reloaded at some point or another.
I
I've
really
seen
need to
one
watch
part of it.
their videos on reading the Bible.
Mhm.
Those are the Bible is kind of a pain to read, so I'm not too interested in those videos. But one of these days, I should actually start like watching all of them as opposed to a few of them. Continue what you were saying though.
Right, so this guy named JackSmack77 made a video that, and I'm planning on making a deal on. He's where he's talking about the Southern Baptists, and me being a Southern Baptist, I was like, oh goody, let's hear what he has to say. And apparently, this was a video entitled "All Southern Baptists." It says Southern Baptists are going to hell. It was basically like what a 15-minute sermon or something from this guy. And let me see if I actually have the original video to see exactly how long it was and what the title. Southern Baptists are going to hell. It's 8 minutes actually. That's even shocking. He calls it a sermon, right? And in this quote-unquote sermon that he gives, he goes to state that Southern Baptists are going to hell. Why? Well, because they believe in things that are considered to Jack to be very ridiculous. So I'm just going to see if I can find the entire. My pastor ended up sending me the Baptist faith message, which is where this guy goes to say that they aren't believing in deals. So they basically talk about. Okay, here it is.
I have one quick question before you
Go
do
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
Remy, how you doing, brother, after your operation?
Sore.
I'm sure you are, but you're good, right? You're all good.
Yeah, I got a nice little
Yeah,
memento from the hospital.
cool deal. Thanks.
Uh-oh. We got a Canadian in the room. Hi, welcome, Remy. How you doing?
Canadians.
Hey,
My
man.
freaking American blood is boiling right now.
I don't know.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with the great state of Kanakistan.
Kanakistan.
Kanakistan, the greatest of all countries.
Is it, Remy, is you know what, never mind, I'm not even going to ponder on that.
I like to call, instead of Canada, Canadia. That's one of mine. I don't think I made that up, but that's one that I like to use sometimes.
I use it for
Even
bacon.
I've called it that a few times.
Alright, so here's the thing that Jack uses to. By the way, this Jack Smack guy is not the Jack Chick guy, but this guy has the same name apparently, but to be a Jack. Anyways, he quotes section 4 concerning salvation from the Southern Baptist Convention's beliefs and practices. And it states, quote, "Salvation involves the redemption of the whole man and is offered freely to all who accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior." And he's like, oh, stop right there. The Bible says nothing about accepting Jesus as Lord. So because of right here, you have them preaching this thing called lordship salvation, and that this is actually a work. They're teaching works because they're saying you have to accept Jesus as Lord and Savior. You just have to accept him as the Savior, not as the Lord. So,
In the Bible, doesn't he say he is the Lord a few times?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty ironic.
yeah, the Bible refers to him as
Again, as far as his argument goes, citation fucking needed.
I mean, and that's the thing. I asked him too, because this is why I decided to make the video response. Because in the comments, I say, doesn't the Bible usually refer to Jesus being referred to as the Lord, though, when we're referring to what he is called? And he said, "Congratulations, sir, you are now blocked from my channel."
I wonder what he would have
jeez.
done if you put up the scripture where Thomas was like, "My Lord and my God."
Let me see if I can actually find.
Jeez, blocking you as soon as you make a counter argument. Really mature there.
And doesn't he understand? That's not lordship salvation. Lordship salvation is the teaching that you have to do a certain amount of works to prove you're saved. You're working with God on a part of your salvation.
Right, so let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I'm going to actually show y'all the conversation he and him had on his channel.
Ooh, this ought to be entertaining.
All right, so
Considering how he's prone to blocking you, if you have space and you give a crap, you should probably also maybe save the conversation before it gets deleted.
right. So I say, is Jesus not called the Lord in Romans chapter 10, verse 9, and 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 18? He said, "You are not welcome on this channel." Yes, Jesus is Lord, and many unsaved people will say to him, "Lord, Lord," and then he just tells me to take a hike. And then I say, "Well, why am I not welcome?" He's like, "Because you teach works salvation." I'm like, "No, I do not. I condemn works-based salvation and even wish for the Catholic Church to repent of their doctrines that involve this set case, because I believe that they can cause people to believe in works-based salvation." And he says,
Really quick, I'm not familiar with all the details of like the different denominations of Christianity. Okay, so what is works-based salvation?
basically that with your will alone, that is you by your means maintaining or earning the salvation. It doesn't have to just mean earning it. It can also just mean the concept of maintaining that salvation by your will and your own deeds.
So I would think that that would be better than faith-only salvation, because then when you have the faith-only salvation, that just means that you can be a bad person or whatever, as long as you believe that's all that matters. So I would
Well,
think
it's
that
not that-
works-based salvation would be better.
Right. Well, it's not the concept of the faith. It's the we are saved by grace through faith. That's the key
Yeah,
language that's
Amy
used in
seems to have.
Ephesians.
Amy is here, and she appears. She maybe has a question.
Oh, dang it. Hold on a second.
We
I
are
did
saved
not say-
by
wait a
grace,
sec-
not by
wait.
works, so that no man can boast.
Wait a second, is this the same? Oh my goodness, it is the same Amy Farmer that I am familiar with when she's on camera. Did you get a haircut, girl?
Hey, Amy.
As soon as she unmutes herself, top of the top.
Grr. Yeah, I
There you
did
are.
get a haircut. It was a while ago.
Nice. Well, welcome aboard. Right now we are talking about Jack Smack. And
I
the
have to
latest thing that I
say,
had.
as someone with big headphones, Corsair Vengeance 1500, as someone with big headphones and long hair, nice headphone hair.
I know, right? The worst is when my hair's wet and I use my headphones and then I have big Like-
Yeah, I hate that.
indentations on both sides of my head from where it dried like that.
So why don't you just kind of sweep it back and put the headphones on and then let it go around the headphones?
Yeah, that's what I do. I brush my hair back with my headphones.
Yeah, I could, but then I don't know. That just looks weird because, well, I'll show you. There. I don't know. I just think that looks weird.
No,
Jen-
it looks fine to me.
Looks
General,
better
is
to
that
me,
you
but
whistling?
we should probably get back on topic.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
What's
sorry
that.
for the
topic?
distraction.
There's not too much that's going on that happens later on, because he then says, I do that, and then I say no, I don't, yada yada. Then he says, You came on my channel a long time ago, leaving vexatious comments. If memory serves, I believe you were defending Calvinism or teaching lordship, you know, something like that. And you are blocked now. What?
Good
What?
Christian love right there.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know what's the sad part of it is? I actually watch you guys from the outside do this, and I have to laugh. I really do. I have to laugh at the amount of sniping you all do at one another.
Croco Squirrel, I have to
To
say,
be fair, so many
I
people
watch
on
from the
different
inside.
sides snipe at each other. I mean,
Okay.
atheists sniping at Christians, Christians at other atheists, atheists at other atheists, etc.
Well, you know, see, here's the thing. I will be more than happy to snipe at a fellow atheist if he's doing or being stupid. But
Yep.
usually that's because I can
Right.
prove he's doing or being stupid.
Right.
Okay?
But,
At that point, he deserves a call out. And he's going to get one.
Mhm.
However, you guys snipe at each other for some of the silliest stuff.
I have to agree.
Right, so hold on a second. So, Lean, like, what exactly would you refer to as the silliest stuff exactly?
Well, I mean,
I agree. There are some times that people do
you
it for
just
silly
you
reasons.
just gave me an example right there.
Okay. That part, when I'm talking about that guy, I'm mainly referring to the concept that this is a person that is just out of no justification or reason condemning someone because why they are Southern Baptists and they believe in something that's just that's not even really a salvific issue. So it's going in a weird contradiction towards how not only the scriptures are viewed, but just how the church is being in view. So that's the main thing why I have a problem and why
My
I'm,
thinking is that you guys have got one book, just
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Can we not come to a consensus about what this book is even remotely supposed to be about?
Well, see, may I
That's the
have
part I don't get.
Yeah,
Well,
that's really funny how much disagreement there is.
we don't even have, for example, let me go to another example. Well, besides the Bible, when it comes to the concept of trying to agree on something,
Although,
there's
really quick, let me
okay.
just add on really quick. It of
Mhm.
course has to do with the fact that you are translating from old dead languages. I would make the
Mhm.
case that an omnipotent
have a nice
and benevolent God who, wants us to know his message should have done a better job with that, but leaving that aside, I mean, translations are a pain, so I mean, I can at least understand the problems, at least between translations and the vague terms being translated from.
Mhm.
I mean, you have the Quran, which is
Mhm.
originally written in a dead language, and you only have 5 or 6 or 7 denominations of Islam, or different
Mhm.
variants of Islam, 2 major ones and a bunch of minor ones.
Right.
Christianity, all on its own, and you guys, they're actually a branch office of Judaism, just like Christianity is.
Mhm.
But
That
you have probably 30 or 40 major denominations of Christianity
Mhm.
and 1,000 times that many and more
Mhm.
minor branches.
Right.
Why?
The
How do you
point
have
because
this much
human
fracturing?
right, because this is human fallibility. This is people that will read something and they have a certain interpretation of it. This doesn't just happen with the Bible. This happens with other forms of literature. For example, we had the early church letters. You'll have the Roman Catholics that will interpret Ignatius's letter to the Sumerians in certain passages where he's approving of what we know in the Roman Catholic tradition as the Eucharist or transubstantiation. However, I recently just seen a video from James White where he's reading and interpreting it based on context on how it's not referring to transubstantiation, but it's referring to the fact that there are Docetics that are saying that Jesus did not suffer on the cross and did not die in the physical flesh and blood. And so it was basically warnings against them because they didn't believe in that. And that's the main thing they go about. So it's not really based on, just, can we just come on an agreement deal? No, because people are going to interpret things in their different way. And hate to sound like I'm bringing this part up, but Catcher in the Rye, some people have different interpretations of what that is, not just on the psychological point where that guy killed John Lennon, but people are trying to figure out what was its intended meaning and message. And who is
Well, they do
messing
the same.
around with the phone right there? Who's getting all the...
And then you have the same thing that happens to any major piece of literature. But if you stop and you think about it, at least some level of consensus should be obtainable. And you guys don't seem to have very much of that.
It's also worth adding on to this in terms of people misinterpreting stuff. It's sort of relevant, but still kind of tangential, is how people in the past and somewhat today still keep trying to blame video games for mass shootings and all kinds of other crap that happens. People trying to blame the medium
Right.
Well,
for the
that's
specific
kind of
artwork.
that's kind of like a red herring. I mean, one thing that every Christian in this room can agree on is there is a God. God created the heaven and the earth. Whether He did it in 6 days or billions of years, He did it. He sent His Son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, and He died for 3 days. He rose, whether it was a Sunday, a Wednesday, or a Tuesday. It was 3 days. He rose up from the dead. He's alive now, and now He's sitting at the right hand of God, and He will return. That is what we agree on. So that's basically the whole principle of what the Bible teaches. And somebody who denies those key elements, they aren't a Christian.
Well, there are 8 people in this room, of which at least 5 of you are Christians or Christian apologists of some stripe. I don't know about Amy. I am not, and I don't think Anase is either. I think he, if I remember correctly, he's got attitudes similar to mine.
I'm an agnostic atheist. Although I can sort of see some defense of the anti-theist position, which I guess would be sort of Gnostic atheist rather than agnostic. But for the most part, I just kind of stick with the agnostic thing.
Well, and here's the thing: I don't even have a clear definition of what God is, and it does, and the large fracturing of what I see, different people trying to define it different ways. You know, I can ask 6 theists in this room, well, 5 of you now, because Amy seems to have left. I could probably ask each one of you for a different definition of God separately, or for a definition of God speaking to you individually where the others can't hear, and I would probably get as many different answers. I mean, the last time I tried that experiment, I got 12 answers and only asked 10 people.
Whoa, how do you manage that? People trying again or something, or just being too broad?
People that were being too broad, then when asked, they didn't. When pushed for it, when pushed on it a little bit, they contradicted themselves or changed their answers in massive ways. There were 4 of them that started with something that was vaguely similar, or at least enough that I could consider that one. And when I pushed them, they came up with completely different answers. So it's just, define God in a way that the average human being, the average skeptic, could wrap their head around it. It's nonsensical as a concept. As far
I would like to add really quick, just wondering, even ignore like negative connotations that makes it sound like mocking, just looking at what the terms mean. What do you guys, as Christians, think of how Aaron Ra tries to define it based on the information he has from other people? It's magical, anthropomorphic, immortal.
Well, I think with Aaron Ra, I think some of the concepts he has towards understanding the concept of Christianity and all that is sort of fallacious. I remember I asked him a question one time when he was being interviewed, and one of my questions got involved, and I mentioned, just the general concept of how Christianity has benefited certain societies throughout time. We're not talking about crusades and all that stuff. We're talking about those moments within history where the concept of Christianity has helped society to develop for the greater good. But he immediately disregards it because he says that you can just look at one piece, but unless you take in the whole context and whole deal, then you're pretty much just putting a lipstick on a pig and all that kind of stuff. I don't know exactly why he use that specific terminology, but he then would go on to say that there's nothing beneficial or moral from reading any parts of the Bible. But anyways,
I could actually, just assuming you're retelling of what happened is accurate. I could throw in a few quick disagreements with that, some corrections,
Right.
and pretty much express
Right.
my view
Mhm.
if you would let me.
Well, I do need to make one point though, because
Okay then.
the major one thing that I do disagree with on him is that he is one of the few that's in the Jesus mythicist camp, and
I'm sorry, he's in the what camp?
the Jesus mythicist camp.
Oh, mythicist. That's what he said.
Yeah, basically just believes that maybe the Jesus didn't exist in the Bible. Wait, can that also mean that there's no actual historical type of person named Jesus? No, there is no historical person that would have been known as Jesus. And to me, this would be an intellectual suicide. And
I've heard like his actual name was something like Yeshua Ben Hur or something. I don't really know anything about that.
well, Yeshua was like the what? I don't know exactly what the name was. That was a Hebrew name, I believe. That would have been it.
Hebrew name.
Yeah, Hebrew name would be Yeshua, and that's at least what when the Messianic Jews refer to Jesus, that's the name they go by. They call him Yeshua.
Oh, so I got the emphasis wrong. I'm gonna make note of that because I got my enunciation and emphasis on the vowels from spirit science. For anyone who doesn't know, I used to be a spirit hard, as I refer to it, and so that's where I heard that originally. So I was just asking for you guys' input if you knew anything about the Yeshua thing.
Well,
Yeah,
even some people disagree on that. Some
Yeshua.
people it's Yeshua, Yeshua, Jehovah, and just they go in sacred names. They're the words. They're like Seventh-day Adventists.
Jehovah? Wait, were you talking about Jehovah?
No.
Didn't
Jehovah,
they not
Yahweh.
have J's or something?
Wait.
So it would have been a yeah.
Somebody in here must have been listening to the Hebrew Israelites because they just rattle off a bunch of Hebrew names like it has anything significant.
Yeah.
Okay, what do they even believe, or what are they
What,
even
the Hebrew
advocating?
Israelites?
Yeah, they
Well,
just kind of stand around
Alright,
yelling
hold on.
at people.
Alright, hold on. I'll try to, based on what I'd seen, because I know G-Man, Veckel, and Cleveland Jones are usually ones I know that best deal with these type of individuals, mainly Veckel. They mainly believe that they believe that their specific race, and it seems to mainly just be black people apparently, they are the chosen. They are the Israelites. Basically, if you are from their specific bloodline race, which the Israelites somehow managed to be from Africa, and they'll go to some of their. I had this one guy named Jesus send me like 2 videos showing Africans speaking this Hebrew tongue, and he's never heard it from a book or anything like that. He just one day just naturally spoke it when he was like a little boy. And he knows how to speak Hebrew, so that's the tongue of our people, and something like
Okay.
that.
Okay,
So-
now,
Bullshit.
Wait. Oh, okay. One more thing before we keep going on. Was Jamal Williams in this hangout, or did he leave?
Jamal Williams was in this hangout, and then he left after what, like 2 minutes?
No, I've always wanted to meet him. He has said. Now I'm not gonna try to beat around the bush here and be uber kind and uber respectful. He said some pretty stupid shit.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that
I've
one.
seen just a little bit of Jamal
is
on I think
Can we-
Red
really,
Twitter. It's too
really
long.
out there.
Hold on. Can we have some order in this place? I'm not saying you keep cutting on some stuff, but
All right,
Iman, what? So yeah, I understand that. Yeah, Jamal has said some. We had a conversation one time about Christian music because he said just Christian music in general is satanic, and why? Because there's a atheist who used to be a Christian rocker said, yeah, all them Christian rockers you see, yeah, they're just atheists. They don't want to admit it because that'll lose money, but they're actually just atheists that are in the closet about it.
Right, so if you're an atheist making Christian music, that somehow combines to be satanic. Does it even matter what the source of the music is, as long as it agrees with your position?
For me, as long as I like the music, then it has the position agreed with. For example, like I can listen to Man in the Mirror and like the song when it talks about, look at what your life is like when it's down, make a change, Why is that not
Okay.
good?
Guys, if I may, I'm going to bail out now. I've actually I got another stream to prep for here in about an hour and a half. So I'm going to go.
Oh, what stream?
That will be the gaming roundup at Actually, it's in 2.5 hours. I do I do gaming news and reviews for a couple of hours on Friday evening, so I'm gonna go do that on my channel here in a little while.
Okay, and
Right.
just sort of to talk about my position again. One thing I wanted to say about Jamal was I find it now this just so everybody in here is aware of this. This has nothing to do with anyone's religious beliefs whatsoever. I'm just doing a personal criticism myself. So this doesn't have to do with Christianity or whether it's true or not. This doesn't have to do with that. So I'm not getting into that. But what I wanted to say is that Jamal. One thing I really despise about him is his aptitude for spreading paranoia and fear. So he preaches sort of this paranoid schizophrenic idea that you are safe nowhere. Everything is satanic. They are out to get you. Like,
God.
Yeah, whenever I see that, I just turn it off. I'm like, get. Yeah, no, that really
Who is Jamal Williams?
Here's what Jamal Williams is. Jamal Williams is basically someone who is in the line of what has been coined by someone on here as a conspiracy theist. This is a person. This is a person. Hold on. This is a person that literally believes that no matter where you look, there's some kind of conspiracy going on. There's some kind of Illuminati plot out there, and some of their points are just absolutely ridiculous. And
is he American footballer?
Yeah, he's American.
But is he a footballer?
No, that's the other thing. He made a video called "Sports Idolatry." We're talking about if you're in the, if you're in
No, is he the American footballer? The former American. Is that the guy we're talking about?
Wait, what? Oh, no, wait, what?
Jamal Williams, an American football player.
No. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, he's not the football player.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it took me a while.
You guys hang out with some weird.
I remember. I don't think I've ever actually talked to Jamal, or rather had a conversation with him. I think I left a comment on a post he left once, but I only vaguely remember him because I've only seen him like a couple times, once or twice probably on Red's channel, Red's Rhetoric.
Yeah, and I will say, Red does tend to be a little bit rude to him, which I don't really like. He is a bit of a rude personality sometimes.
Yeah, that's what because I noticed that because what Jamal does is spam his videos that aren't related to religion with things like you need to watch your mouth and you need to repent and accept Jesus. I'm like, okay, I understand. Evangelism, good. That's a good thing to do. But there's a time and a place, and
I know.
There's a mood and a setting for that.
Yeah, he's become Red actually, and I think this is one of his more valid descriptions. Has described him as a pest.
Right.
So what Redline does is he now starts spamming him Slipknot music.
Oh gosh.
Is he the one that has the?
Hold on, General.
Nice.
Hold on, everyone. Joe, can you speak again?
Can you hear me all right?
Just barely.
You could get a little bit closer to your microphone.
It's weird. How about now?
That's better.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's cool. But yes, I mean, when it comes to Jamal, and this just goes out to every conspiracy theist out there. Yes, I'm going to use that word. Here's a thing that bothers me, and I actually saw a sermon about conspiracy theorist type of people, and this passage was brought up. Ephesians chapter. Open your Bibles up to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, and we shall read. And I'm going to start reading in the Old English of the King James Bible, so that way we don't get sued. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, which they claim that's what it is, the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them or expose them. This is the verse they normally use. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. That's NIV. This is the verse they use to say, we need to expose the conspiracies. But check this out.
That's generally a good idea, though. I mean, if people are doing bad things, that's generally a good idea to expose that.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, what Jamal is doing is pointing out things that aren't even real.
Right.
Yeah, I
Lying.
think there's a word for that, pareidolia, seeing patterns where they don't
And
really exist.
Right, and I'm gonna get there, but then
I'm going to look
here's
up that word just to be
right,
sure.
Right,
Continue.
but here's the consistency here. The next verse says, "For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret," and then it tells you how you expose them. But rather you expose or reprove, all the things that are reproved or exposed are made manifested by the light, for whatsoever doth make manifest is light. And in the context that was in the earlier parts of this chapter and later on, that light is being referred to as the gospel. So in other words, you expose it by preaching the gospel. And that's the interesting thing is I notice when you look at people like Pillbox, well, make Jamal an exception. At least he's able to be consistent a bit. Who else? Michael Ann,
Rose Patton.
Patton, Campbell, all these others. I mean,
And
where's the
also,
gospel? Where's the gospel?
Yeah, here's
Are
the
you
thing about
listing the
Pillbox.
truest Christians?
Here's the thing about Pillbox. Okay, so while I'm sure that Jamal is at least sane enough in his mind, to have a rational discussion about something, Pillbox is on a whole nother. He's a schizophrenic. I just don't deal with it.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I mean,
already gave up on him a long time ago.
Wait, Pillbox? Are we talking about microbloganism and his other name, Pillboxinism, or is that a joke name?
Exactly. Yeah, actually, Pillbox lives in Arizona. He's been institutionalized, I think, over 2 times, and he's also he takes Prozac on a regular basis, which is schizophrenia medication. So
No, it's
That
not.
explains
No,
the
it's
name.
not. No, it's
We
not.
are not
Prozac
look-
is it's a classic depression medication.
Even worse.
Well, having schizophrenia, depression.
no, it was something else. No, it wasn't. I'm getting the medicines confused. What was the?
I don't understand. Are you
It
saying
wasn't-
that he's just not cognitively able to understand arguments? Because I don't know. You're saying a lot of stuff about him that might be something you shouldn't be spreading around like that. If you're
I'd be curious as to what microblog or Pillbox, whatever we're calling him, has to say about that.
I do know that he was in the military. So
Yeah,
at
I
some
did not
point
know that.
he didn't have these diagnosis consistent with schizophrenia.
Yeah,
Otherwise he
all
wouldn't
of-
be able to go into the military.
Should I
Oh,
ask Pillbox? Because I mean, I could tweet him on Twitter.
No, yeah, I don't want to I don't want to deal with him. He's gonna be like I don't know. He's gonna go on like an aggressive campaign against me if you do something like that. So yeah, I know. I just don't want to deal with him.
Right.
Let's see what else.
I think
And I thought he
Okay,
was an alright
I'll
guy
tell
from
you
his
my
videos.
source. First of all, I think you guys need a source because obviously these are some big claims. Of course, let's see. I haven't heard this firsthand from him. There are 2 people who've told me about this. There was if anybody's familiar with an Australian guy by the name of, well, they call him, he goes by either Bullfrog or just Bulldog.
I'm not familiar.
is this
Okay.
what the topic of the hangout is
Right.
supposed to be? Like
I was
talking
about to say that I want to change the topic because I don't want to just have a discussion where we're bashing and gossiping about people. If he does have those problems, I don't know. But let's just pray for him, guys, because everybody has their own issues and stuff. I don't think we should be talking about it.
Pray in your own
At least
time,
if you're the
please.
theist in the room, then pray for him. For the atheist, just keep him in the thoughts.
Yeah.
well, that's
I wish the best for
time
him,
as
though,
well. Just
seriously.
keeping him in your thoughts. And I have to go on a George Carlin tangent now. Where in your thoughts exactly?
Up in your brain.
Up in the brain.
I'm
mean-
gonna look up that skit just so I can send it to you guys in the chat.
Yeah, you know,
do that.
he might be a troubled individual, but I mean, I don't wish
Right, so-
anything bad on him. You know, I hope things work out.
Of course not.
Well, switching gears because
Yeah, let's
we were
switch
supposed
gears
to
right
be
now. That's what I was about to say. Hold on. All right. First off, welcome to a few people that, because we've been rambling on like people, I told y'all we were going to be rambling. Ramble on. We have Dash in the room. We have David Weiser, otherwise known popularly by G-Man as that guy that doesn't believe that the Bible is the Word of God. We have Amon, who just vanished because the rapture just happened. We have Joe, Sonsi. And
Well,
then
wait,
we
why
have-
are you still here then? My God, you're an atheist.
Because Calvinism is false.
I knew I was gonna get that a joke, one of those by the end of the night. And then we have Justin, which apparently said he is a long-time listener, but is new here. So with a glad, warm welcome aboard, Justin.
How's it going, folks? I actually talked to Dave. Had like a pretty lengthy discussion, maybe about a year ago, just he and I. But I've never met any other of you. But I listen to a lot of Hangouts and been following all the various chats that go on, but don't really participate too much.
Well, I don't remember our conversation, Justin, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. It was like about everything and nothing, but it was a good one.
General, what did you just send me here? Because I'm looking at something with Martin Luther's deal on there. What the heck did you send me?
Well, it's based on the original topic that we're having about different denominations. And so Luther says something quite interesting.
Okay, let's see here. In the first place, I asked that men make no reference to my name. Let them call themselves Christians, not Lutherans. Okay, so yeah, I remember Lutherans was getting called around by the time he was still around. After all, the teaching is not mine. John 7:16 for reference. Neither was I crucified for anyone. 1 Corinthians 1:13. St. Paul in 1 Corinthians 3 would not allow the Christians to call themselves Pauline or Peterine, but Christian. How then should I, poor stinking maggot fodder that I am, come to have men call the children of Christ by my wretched name? Not so, my dear friends. Let us abolish all party names and call ourselves Christians, after him whose teaching we hold. I agree with this. Now, let me just explain why I call myself either Calvinist or Reformed. Though I hold to the Reformed teachings espoused by John Calvin, I call myself that because it's easier for me to say that in the means when someone asks, what is your belief? What is your particular beliefs on yada yada yada? I say, well, I'm a Calvinist, or if someone I don't have a specific eschatological view, but if they ask what that is, I'd say, for example, maybe I'm a preterist. Just a name that way you can actually use one word to just explain like a whole entire paragraph, basically. So I'd rather say the time.
In the side chat, we had a very short, just like a couple message exchanges about labels and stuff. And this is part of why I say labels both suck and do not, is because part of why labels suck is that you have people who don't understand the labels or will define them differently, and you have to argue about that. Or, atheists or baby eaters or Satan worshippers, that kind of stuff is an example. And it being useful would be a case in something larger, something that describes a much more complex belief system, because saying, I don't believe there are any gods isn't very long. Though the term atheist isn't as practical as, say, Calvinist, which would describe a lot more. I still don't know too much about Calvinism. I should really read stuff, but anyway.
I'll send you some stuff.
Alright, send it in a PM, something so I just have the gist of what this is, because I don't have a whole lot of time to read a whole lot. I got stuff going on very soon, so I don't have too much time for about a week or so. I don't know.
So an interesting thing, just for a side point to the audience, and I don't know, maybe if someone in the chat wants to get in on this, I started reading the Bible again, picking off where I left off, and it started in Judges, and I noticed something interesting, that when I look at it, I sort of then think about my prayer life. In the first 9 chapters of Judges, you have the instance where it's sort of repetitive. It's kind of like that scene in Genesis where God is saying, where the Bible is saying, then they gave birth to this person, and then this person, and the father, lived to be this long, died.
God,
then
all the genealogy crap.
Like the This
yeah, the
guy
begot,
begot this guy begot this
right,
guy.
the begot part, and then, but it has a similar thing here, but except actually might be more interesting is when it said that Israel then started worshiping false gods, and then the Lord delivered them up to their captors. These tribes basically came and took over and as enslaved them, and then the people of Israel then cry out to God to deliver them, and He sends a judge, basically someone that helps free them. And this happens like several times within the 9 chapters from several different tribes and cultures. And by the time it gets to the 10th chapter, it gets to that part where, to paraphrase, God is basically like, seriously? You're asking me this again? I have freed you from all these different tribes, and what do you keep doing? We're doing the same thing over and over. We're going in a circle here. No, I am not going to answer the cry this time. To this point, something then changes when I notice that they, instead of being more, because normally when they ask, they say, Lord, deliver us from this evil. Please just deliver us so that we may be free again. It seemed more selfish until the point then they now say, however you will it, or whatever pleases you, allow it to happen to deliver us. So now it's not how they would want it, it's how God it brings about the means. And I'm now starting on verse 11 where they're talking about
Yeah,
the
I
next
think the reason people do that is because they don't want to be demanding, because they want to be really humble. So it's just like, if it's okay with you, please do this, but don't feel pressure. Do it however you like. It's okay.
And I do the same thing with my prayer life with when I think of, and I think that's an interesting aspect that I use as an analogy for it, is because when I focus on when I pray to God for something, it's not like, you went to the Joel Osteen or Creflo Dollar Church and like, Lord, I need a new shiny Lamborghini. I need you to deliver me $50,000 so I can buy me a Lamborghini.
One dedicated Lamborghini.
But yes,
What's wrong with the way they pray? It's because they're
well, it's
asking
more-
for.
It's more like, and my pastor ironically did a sermon on this, and he's basically like, it makes it like you think God owes you something. Basically, my pastor gets the sass going and goes like, God, I praise you, I worship you. Now you give me what I pray for. You give me what I pray for right now. I'm pointing right now.
Well, it seemed like at some point God did presume that there was an obligation He had to us, but the Israelites kept on messing it up, and now He doesn't have an obligation to us?
Not an obligation. He does what He wills and desires to.
Okay.
I,
But I'm not sure how you can say that you know what God desires. Like, what's the way that you know what God desires?
I don't know what He desires. I'm basically saying that what He chooses to do is based on not on what we have as an obligation.
He have an obligation. He does have an obligation.
Hey, really quick, because we've had a few people exchange throughout the chat. Really quick, everyone, real quick. What are your stances? Dash, I don't know you.
Dude, we were in the middle of a discussion.
I'm very
You can ask
confused.
him in
I'm
the side
sorry.
chat. You can ask him in the side chat.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But after Noah, God promised that He wouldn't do another flood and other promises. And you have and after the banishment from Eden, there is certain promise, and from inside, I can't remember right now the correct how it was placed, but I remember something along that line. You do have a connection to God, because otherwise you have a it's lead to far more issues with faith in it. You do need some connection to it. What you describe with the want to give a new king, if I understood correctly, in Shmuel, or I didn't get the context. But in Shmuel there was a certain plea for give us king. So and the Bible treated it as if what they ask, it's at least by Shmuel itself, it was unfavorable. I can't remember the chapter right now, but I remember the content.
What I'm not really sure what's the relevance of that to deciding whether or not you're praying in accordance to God's desires.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to Joe about that actually.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So Joe, I recommend when I first became a Christian back in 2009, one of the first Christian authors that I read was a guy named Dave Hunt, and he wrote a book back in the 80s titled The Seduction of Christianity. I highly recommend you get that book specifically on that topic, titled The Seduction of Christianity, where very amazingly, he highlighted a slow creeping problem from traditional prayer-like worship in the church versus the type of worship that we see today, which is like the Joel Osteen type worship. And basically, he was quite troubled by the fact that the prayer we see in the Christian churches today borderlines on what he dubbed the placebo effect, where God is nothing but a placebo effect, and it leads into a lot of, well, you know, when you think about it, it leads into a lot of problems sociologically, psychologically, because people are depending on this image that they make up in their minds of this Yahweh figure, and when things don't really work out, even though they get a high in the church service, but outside the church, a lot of failures take place, and they become very bitter. And so he wrote the book warning Christians not to go down that path, but to go back to biblical principles of prayer, which is totally different to what Christian anarchist was. You know, he gave an analogy of, give me this car, and if you keep having a positive mental attitude, eventually the car will appear. And Oprah Winfrey wrote a book, The Secret. I don't know if you guys know about that. Some years back. It's all based on that. It's all interconnected on that. And it's just interesting when you read his book he wrote it back in the 80s. And you read his book, it's like as if you're reading it in 2016. It's actually it's quite remarkable. So I recommend that read.
Well, what you're describing sounds to me like basic idolatry, where you meditate upon the object that you desire until you either motivate yourself or position yourself into a situation where it becomes likely to happen.
Right.
What's
and
the
there's
more
actually an interesting
biblical
sermon
type
that
of prayer, though?
and there's an interesting sermon I saw.
Well, what's the most? What's the more biblical type of prayer? You told us what kind of praying we shouldn't do, or
exactly.
Yeah.
So what is the type of prayer we should do?
So the prayer is modeled after what I would consider it's not called the Lord's Prayer, but Christians call it the Lord's Prayer. When the structure of the prayer is such that you're having a form of communication, and it's not that the prayer is not meant to be repetitive. So even just a couple of verses prior to that, Jesus says, "Don't say vain babblings like the pagans and the heathens," which now you see in Hillsong. You see this constant repetitive nature of each lyric. We praise you, and they'll keep repeating that 10 times, and they get like a euphoric feel about that. Jesus is basically saying, okay, this prayer that I'm going to highlight to you is heavily, it's theologically heavy from an Old Testament perspective. Each stanza is, it reflects Old Testament theology. But when you go to the Psalms and you see the type of prayer in the Psalms, there's a lot of reflecting. There's a lot of thinking about nature. There's a lot of, think about this past experience you might have done to maybe avoid that in the future. That there's a lot of, it's thoughtful, it's musing. It's not a form of an amusement, but it's to muse on something. And Jesus was like, this is how you will be separate from these other people that just keep, in their vain babblings, that just keep repeating the same thing, but nothing happens. They don't progress. Prayer is meant to reflect progress, not just quote unquote spiritually, but also in your profession. You know, if you're a scientist, don't let, you know, like in this case, religion or something like a placebo effect affect that. You know, be a good scientist, or be a good teacher, or be a good I don't know, economist or something. So prayer is more in that line rather than some spiritual hokey pokey feel in the church and then nothing happens.
Well, you can also use prayer to help you deal with bad situations. You can ask for help, both spiritual and physical, and maybe God will answer it in a positive way.
I agree with that. But, I mean, Christians, when they pray, sometimes, like for example, let's take thorny issues like the death of a loved one. Usually, in that moment in time, the peculiar thing of prayer is that it's probably the only form of comfort. I mean, again, I'm not saying all people do this, but for Christians, you know, if it's unexplainable, then prayer seems to be that only way of not escapism, but a form of like reflection and comfort on, okay, this has happened. How do I move on from this?
It also depends on the kind of Christian faith you have. I mean, if you say, for example, the songs that you were talking about, where it says "We praise you" and all that, if it doesn't do anything for you, you're just repeating it over and over again, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. But someone like myself, when I hear things like that and I'm really getting into it, I don't just say or think praise you. I concentrate on how great Jesus is and the things he did. I mean, those scenes are going through my head, you know.
Okay.
And
well, if someone makes a prayer, and we consider like a divine plan or God's divine plans for the world, if what they want in their prayer goes against God's plan, God just won't answer the prayer. He won't give them what they want in their prayer.
Well, no, he'd make them understand. I mean, if they're mature enough, he would allow them to understand that it's just detrimental in the long run to get your way.
Which is why when I pray, I say, if it be your will, or sometimes I even just decide to say the Hebrew phrase, Im Yetzeh Hashem.
I actually have a question regarding this. May I?
Shoot, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and it's funny, this is interesting because it's also something George Carlin mentioned. I mentioned George Carlin earlier.
George Carlin again.
I know what you're going to
okay,
say.
but this,
it's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, what?
I said I know what you're going to say. I was thinking the same thing, but go ahead.
Okay, then. Okay, so if the prayer, God already has this plan, supposedly, and if the prayer would conflict with the plan, then he's not going to do anything. But if it doesn't conflict with the plan, then what was it? Either way, he either does or he doesn't modify his plan. So if he's not going to modify his plan, then what's the point of praying? Either he is going to help you or he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
If it already went with his plan, then there's no point to praying.
Well, when God answers a prayer, he answers it in such a way where it benefits the one giving the prayer without going against God's whatever plan it is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Okay, it's like a relationship between a parent and a child. Mm-hmm. The child wants ice cream.
Okay.
And he's mad that he can't get ice cream because he really wants it.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, no, it's not good for you to have ice cream, and you're only going to get ice cream once in a while as a treat.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to understand is that it'll make you sick if you if you keep eating a lot of ice cream. It'll make you sick. It'll get you overweight. It'll just cause you a lot of problems, and I'm trying to prevent that.
But the issue is, a lot of people will pray sincerely for things like, "Can you save my child from this terminal illness?" And they will further report feeling no comfort whatsoever from God.
Aren't there also some people who, instead of getting medical attention, will pray for God to heal them, and then the child dies?
Okay, death and sickness is a consequence of this world we're living in. God's not going to stop that because we are in that situation.
Then
we have to
isn't
stay,
pretty much...
we have to stay in that situation until the time of the end, because mankind as a race is required to learn from this.
Okay, now I have a question. How do you determine the difference Wait, okay, who's going next?
Well, I asked a question and then he just answered your question because you asked right after me.
Okay.
Does anyone else have an answer to the question that I asked?
I'm sorry.
General.
What did you ask again?
About the child?
Well, yeah. How is it? It doesn't seem like what. Well, I guess it's more for David. It doesn't seem like what you say God does if He can't answer your prayer. It really actually happens. People who make sincere prayers for sincere things often are not comforted, despite the fact that God is not going to answer the prayer either. I guess because He has a divine plan.
Yeah.
Okay. No, here's the thing you're missing though. I mean, you're talking about the difference between a person who prays who doesn't really have faith and someone who does have a
Not at all.
relationship.
I said sincere people, so you can.
Sincere people, then if God doesn't answer their prayer, then they really weren't that sincere.
All right, let's let General get on this. Hold on. Let's get General on this real quick.
After General, I've got an idea that maybe just as a side thought.
All right. Go ahead.
That wasn't a acceptable answer, David.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you're talking about the King of the universe here, and if you do not have enough faith to receive an answer in your spirit,
I don't see how you
Wait, hang on a
are
second.
able
Is David
to.
saying-
I don't see how you are able to say that these people are just simply not sincere. That's why.
if you're telling me that people don't get their prayers answered, it's because they don't have faith.
No. You've already forgotten the point you made. The point you made is that if God doesn't answer your prayers, He usually tries to comfort those people. But people who have prayed and who are sincere and haven't gotten their prayers answered, they also report not feeling any comfort.
I'm not saying God doesn't answer the prayers of the faithful. They just don't get the answers they like.
Okay, but again, you said that God would comfort them, like when a parent comforts a child.
I'm talking about someone who has faith. I'm talking about someone who has faith, not just anybody who just decides they're going to pray.
Again, I said sincere people praying to God.
But you're the one that's saying that God doesn't answer those people's prayers.
Okay, you said that God has a reason for not answering them, but He also, this is what you said God does, is He comforts them and lets them, comforts them despite the fact that He's not answering
if you have the faith to hear from God, yes.
Yeah, but many people who do that and who are religious often report not receiving any comfort
Well, you're
whatsoever.
conflating religion with faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it sounds like you're just trying to. It sounds like you're just trying to say.
Hold on. We need to move on because we got some people. Hold on, we got some people that are wanting to hold on to this topic. So, General, go ahead.
Okay. Again, if I was a Jew in the first century, say at the time of Christ, or even prior, like let's take David and his 1-week-old child that died, regardless of his prayers. The interesting thing of how they would reflect on this sort of thing is that let's go along with the child. You're praying for the child. In that moment, there's this anguish to, God do something about saving this child. The child dies, and the Jews, they didn't immediately start afterwards going, oh, how could this happen, and become atheists or something like that. The next thing that they would think about is the resurrection.
Exactly.
And in the next, like when Jesus comes on the scene, even if a person lives to be 90 years old and then dies, the point is, to a Jew, the number one enemy wasn't God or Satan, actually. The number one enemy was actually death. And this is highlighted by Paul in Corinthians, where he basically speaks about the fact that if death is not defeated, then technically we are all lost, regardless. And so that's the ultimate hope: is there a solution to death? And so in fact, that's the whole Christian message. That's the good news of the Christian message. So now, when it comes down to, even in today's circumstance of people praying and children still pass away, well, I haven't had a child yet, but I will reflect on the fact that I did bury my grandfather a year after I became a Christian, and I can tell you that if I was an atheist burying my grandfather, I would just contemplate on the fact that this is all pointless. Like, what is life? It's just a pointless existence. But at least,
I'm sorry about your grandfather, man, but I'm not seeing the relevance to the point I was making. Are we moving on to a different point? Is that the issue?
No.
I'm confused as to where this conversation is going as well.
No, hang on a second. I need to clarify that my point is that intellectually, I've found peace in the fact that there is a solution to his death, and that is he's not lost. So transfer that to a parent whose child has passed away. Yes, the parent will find it hard and will be in pain, but at least the child will be in the resurrection. That is the faith issue. That's ultimately there's a solution to that whole problem. Now, why didn't God save the child at that very moment? Like, why didn't He do a miracle?
Why didn't He answer the prayer?
It's saying that God.
Well, answering the prayer would be basically that. Say if the child had cancer.
It's
that means
not
God has to
why
intervene.
did He save the child. It's why is it the case that many people report not being comforted by God in spite of Him not answering their prayers the way they want God to answer their prayers.
They don't have faith. They don't have faith.
And it seems to me that no true Scotsman fallacy is what David's relying on.
Okay.
Hang on, really quick. Wait. Can I interject real quick?
No, that's not what David is saying.
He's saying faith, and I don't see how he has any reason to.
Faith in itself is a comfort. Faith in itself is a comfort. If everybody has different levels of this faith, okay? The more faith you have, the more likely you will actually hear from God.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
no, I disagree with that.
It sounds like faith is something you could quantify. What's the unit of faith?
Well, some people, like in the Bible days, had enough faith to heal people and resurrect people that were dead.
Hang on, can I just inject a couple thoughts here real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna really quick just for the focusing of the discussion. Okay, so as I understand it, the conversation is David made the claim that if you pray for something and your child, so that your child doesn't die, and the child dies, God will at least comfort you. And Joe is saying that there's the case where this happens and then they weren't comforted, and so you're saying that it only happens to those who have enough faith, correct?
Well, yeah, in so many words, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now what I essentially need to ask is, how is this claim in any way falsifiable? And before you answer, let me go into a little bit more detail so that what I'm saying is clear. So it seems like if this does happen, where someone says that they had this problem and then they were comforted by God, then they must have had enough faith. And if this wasn't the case, then they didn't have enough faith. And I have to say, how can you test these claims? How can you tell if someone has enough faith to get the answer?
You can't test faith.
So then what you're telling me is that I have no reason to accept your answer then?
That's your problem.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's
It's
your
not our
problem.
problem. It's
It's
just you
it's
can't. It's
No,
kind
you're
of
the
your
one
your
that don't
problem.
have faith.
Oh,
You're the one. I'm the
Dash.
one that has
No,
faith,
no,
not you.
hang on a
Dash
second,
asked a really
David.
good
that
question
sounds
here
festival.
in the chat.
But I have a thought that
Yes. Go ahead, Justin. You're free to go.
that I've considered for a while, and the prayer thing kind of fits nicely with it. And I'm a non-believer, but I enjoy um, trading hats. Okay, so I'm thinking that when people criticize prayer and they say like, oh well, this person prayed for such and such and they didn't get it and they're angry with God, or they got it and they got their prayer and they're like, oh yeah, great, you know. And I think that humans, if I were a believer, I would say that humans, generally speaking, are very short-sighted in comparison to God. Okay, if I were a believer, I would say this is an entity that has complete and full understanding of all of time, from the very beginning to the very end, in all dimensions, all at once, and can see every minuscule action, thought, everything happening all at once, and understands how everything leans on each other. You know, because we live in an interconnected world. Nothing is an island. Everything is interconnected, yes?
I'm not.
So for the
I'm not
person
sure
who
what the relevance of this is.
I'm getting back to it right now. The
Okay.
person who has a sick loved one, and they say, "Oh, please God, please save my friend. I don't want to lose them this soon," and the person dies, and then that person who was praying says, "Oh shit, I didn't get my prayer. You know, like, you know, I don't understand it," or maybe they go into the faith and they say, well, okay, God must have a reason or whatever, or they get pissed off and they say, fuck off, I'm going to do whatever I want. But they don't have the complete understanding that that one tiny card in the immense house of cards, that one tiny event had to happen, because if it didn't, it would offset the entire structure of what we know as reality.
Okay, so there's
Right.
two things to
Let me
respond to
And
that.
that's just a thought. That's just a
That
thought. I'm a
seems like
Wait,
it's
hold on, hold on,
putting
hold
a
on, hold on, hold on.
restriction on God, and it also, I mean, why is it the case that God can't explain that to people?
Well, can I piggyback off of that, because that actually segues exactly into what I was
Hold
going to say.
on. Justin, would it be okay for him to go ahead?
I'm sorry. What? I was done. I just
okay.
wanted to say that's just a thought.
Yeah, okay, then go ahead.
Not my
Wayne.
belief.
Well, Christian anarchists, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of Molinism, not Calvinism or Arminianism.
Yeah, I've heard of Molinism before.
Yeah, it's basically the theological idea or philosophy made by a 19th century Jesuit
16th
named
century.
16. I thought it was 19. Really?
No, it was 16th century.
16?
Yeah.
And his name
Molina.
was Luis
Don't argue with the
A.
person with a
Molina.
picture of an anime character on here. I'm looking at you.
It was made by Luis de Molina, and
Mhm.
basically it is the idea that God has middle knowledge, where God doesn't know, he doesn't just know what will happen, but he knows what possibly probably could happen if things were to happen in that particular way, and that fits particularly into the prayer situation where, well, why did God allow this to happen? You know, and why did God not answer my prayer? How come this person died, et cetera, et cetera? And my own personal walk with God. Let me tell you guys this short little anecdote real quick. I have a grandpa who I happened to live with him for a long time. We actually got a chance to know each other a little bit better when I was in high school. And it just so happens that last July, I think, he had a stroke. So he was a guy who was up walking and talking every morning. I mean, he was a guy, 8 o'clock in the morning, he was up dressing himself, going out, getting in his Camaro, getting his own newspaper, coming home, cooking himself breakfast, being really independent, and he had a stroke. And not only did he have a stroke, but he died for a few seconds, lost oxygen to his brain, and now he cannot do anything on his own. So he's completely dependent on myself, my grandma, my dad, and all these other people, and possibly
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's tough, and possibly if he doesn't get better, he could die. And throughout all of this, it hasn't really affected my walk with God, per se. If I didn't have that theological understanding that yeah, we live in a fallen world, bad things happen, not because necessarily, we are bad people, but we live in a bad world. And nonetheless, Mormonism helps explain this because Justin, like you were saying, if God were to allow certain things to happen for that one particular thing, it could knock off like the balance of like maybe even the space time continuum. For an example, real good example, right? There's a husband and a wife, and they're good Christian devout believers, and they pray every day for their daughter to be blessed and be saved and be protected on her way to school. So one day the daughter goes out to go to school, and she gets hit by a car. Now in one reality, in reality A, the daughter dies, and even though the daughter dies, through that death, the father and the mother are actually brought together, and their marriage is saved because before that, their marriage was going through some rocks and some shakes. But in reality B, where they pray to God and God actually protects their daughter from getting hit by a car, yeah, their daughter is not hit by a car, but their marriage is destroyed and both parents separate, and it affects the child in a way where she isn't hit by a car at that moment, but 2 years down the line, she has a drug overdose on crack because she's so constructed from the divorce, and she dies anyway. And so it actually would
Sliding
be
doors.
It sounds like you're showing us how they reconcile free will with God's divine plan. The issue is I don't see why God can't explain how is comforting someone God can't explain that to people. Are you saying that Molinism already explains it for God?
oh, well, that's a really easy answer to even answer without Molinism. Why doesn't God comfort people? Because He doesn't have to. He's
Well, the
God.
thing is, if you don't think he has to, then you're just disagreeing with what David said. And David, I believe, was saying that God would comfort those with the, I don't know,
Would, but not
classical
necessarily
faith.
has to.
He does comfort people if they have enough faith to hear from him in the spirit. If you don't have enough faith to hear
Just a
from him,
vacuous statement.
Can I,
I don't care if
can
it's
I,
a vacuum statement. That's your problem to deal with, not mine.
Well, it's your problem because you're making it in this.
No, it's not. I'm fine with it. How is it my problem if I'm fine with it?
Well, it's your problem if you want to have it have any meaning to anyone else, I suppose.
It
Well,
doesn't
faith,
matter. It doesn't.
faith is
It will
subjective. It
only
doesn't have to
mean
have any
something.
meaning
It will
to
only
you.
mean something to
I
other
can't.
people of faith. It will
Hold on,
only
two
mean
people
something to other
talking at
people of
once. I
faith.
could
If
understand.
if you can't accept that people have faith, if you don't like it, that's really your situation, and you go on about living your physical life and do the best you can with it.
Okay, that's not what I originally said, but Dash, you've been wanting to talk for a bit.
Wait, did the conversation from the chat just move into the stream?
I would, can I, first to David, I had a little argument that to say that someone have more faith or less faith, may God some sort of accountment that he measure how much faith you have and how many sins you made, and it's really bad image of God.
No, it's not.
Yes,
If you have Jesus, if say the Apostle Paul
just
had way more faith than
one sec,
me, the Apostle Paul had way more faith than I did.
Oh, wait a
one sec,
minute. Really.
one
No, I'm sorry.
sec.
I'll wait.
One sec. Your image of God is a glorified accountment that measure how much faith someone have, and I would
What
believe
are
that
you
it would.
even talking about?
It does sound like that. He's making a
He,
What are you, do you think I have the same amount of faith as any of the apostles did?
I don't think he understands your point, Dash.
my point here is that you make God as an accountant who measure how much faith people have,
No,
and by it is
The
No.
faith comes from God. The faith comes from God. He gives
okay.
people the amount of faith that they have.
So how
No, he
can
does not.
Yes, he does.
so how
Hold
can
on.
you know?
He gives people the
Faith
amount of
comes from
faith,
God.
so then if
Hold on a
Everything
second.
comes from God. All good things come from God,
Okay,
even faith.
Alright, okay, so General, what is your stance then that differs from uh, David? Because I'm curious right now on this aspect, so I want to, because we don't have much time left, we only got like 10 minutes before
I really
I'm,
want to make a great point before this goes off stream, but I'll wait my turn. I just want to mention that.
well, alright, we'll see then.
Exciting.
Alright, so General, what concerning the concept of faith that you're disagreeing with on David, about what is it, how do you understand it then as from what your studies are?
Well, faith is not, well, what is faith?
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost. So again, faith is, do I put my, now again, if I'm an ancient Israelite, I have to take into account very seriously the fact that the divine is more real, well, not more real, but as real as physical reality. So what I mean by that is Moses would have said, yeah, Yahweh exists, but guess what? These other gods in the other nations also exist. They're equally as real as this Yahweh being that we worship, the Shema. The Shema doesn't rule out the other gods. So faith in Yahweh is what I'm going to do. What does that mean? Well, faith that He's the one who's going to be my rock, my redeemer, and all those titles associated with that. It doesn't mean that I have 50% faith in this Yahweh being, or I have 70% faith in this Yahweh being, or I have 30% faith in Baal. No, it's about, okay, I'm going to put my trust in this being because he's brought me out of Egypt, and he's going to do certain things along the way. That's it. There is no leveling in the faith. Now, did Yahweh put faith in Moses? No. Yahweh reveals certain things for Moses to go, okay, he's the deity by which he's going to rescue Israel. And that's what faith means in the Bible, not some, I don't know, percentage thing that God installs and programs into your mind.
Well, I think the thing that I think you might be getting at now, I might sort of, this is probably where I'm coming with there's mentions of the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and would that be connected with faith by chance?
Sure, why not?
No.
All right, so Joe, so how would you explain what the fruits of the Holy Spirit is then in general?
This is really quick. Can I just say something real quick?
Okay, then we'll get to general, but real quick.
Okay, so it's just as a clarifying statement. We may be talking about the word faith in different meanings and contexts. Perhaps it would be a good idea to define the term a little bit.
Faith just means to have confidence.
Confidence in what?
In God. In God.
So,
Okay, so it could be based on evidence or based on no evidence whatsoever. It's just how much it's just belief in the existence of God.
How do you develop confidence in something?
With evidence. That's how I would generally do it.
Exactly. So if you have evidence that certain things have happened in your life that can only be attributed to God, as far as you know, then you have confidence. Other people would not have the same confidence. Other people would not have the same confidence in God that I would. They didn't have the experiences that I have had. They didn't have interactions
people
with
can
God.
have personal experiences that could be fairly definitive for them.
So what is your point with that? You just said the same thing I did.
My point in originally stepping in was just trying to know what exactly we're talking about by faith, because in the way that I see it, I use the definition of belief in the absence of evidence. Usually, the faith is strong.
How you define evidence? How you define evidence is what you mean. But somebody could have had prophetic dreams and visions that they've seen come to pass. Somebody could have seen somebody before they ever got into it. Could see somebody perform miracles like back in the ancient Bible days. And then because they have witnessed these things, now they have confidence that it can happen. Therefore, they start to have more faith and they start able to do these things.
Right.
Well, let me just say something real quick, because I came out of a blab. I don't know if you guys even know what that is, but if you go on blab.im, and I know advertisement, Hangout, Christian Anarchist. But if you go there, it's almost like a thing like Google Hangouts, and there's atheists debating and Christians debating. And
I've tried that before with Brett Keene's deal. It doesn't have a thing where I can close my screen, so I kept spazzing out due to my camera being all busted up.
It's cool. But I just came out of a blab probably maybe 30 minutes ago, an hour ago, and we were having the same exact discussion about faith and what is faith and blah, blah, blah. And it seems like no matter where I go, the atheists will always say the same thing. Now, and I say, you don't know the other atheist who was in that blab. He doesn't know you. Dave, you don't know the other Christian who was in the blab. He doesn't know you.
We get it. You're making a blanket statement about atheists. Continue.
What do you mean?
just continue with what is it the thing that we always say?
Atheists get their pansies in a bunch if you don't be very specific.
Yeah, I know
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry that I want to know what the terms being discussed mean. My bad.
Okay.
well.
Uh,
Can I just go back?
Always say,
Well, see, that's the problem with atheists is that they just don't want to accept anything unless you have a physical thing right in front of them that they can point at.
Okay, that was different
No,
from the
you're
first thing you said.
you're not very accurately describing what I think.
No, you already pretty much said it. You said that you wanted something to be testable, verifiable, according to what you can see and understand.
Yeah, that's the idea, because I can't accept something that's completely incoherent
And for
or
some
has too
reason-
much evidence against it.
And for some reason,
Well, the issue,
if
David,
you
is
have a
you also
problem with
presented it
and
like
for some reason,
it
if you have a
quantified.
problem with it, it means that I have a problem with it.
Well, David, the issue though is that you presented it as though it could be quantified. They didn't have enough of something.
It's only quantified to other people with faith.
Wait, but what you describe is quite an evil God, because he said to someone since his birth that he shouldn't have, is that you don't have enough faith by definition. Why? Because I want to, and you will never know why. But you will never know that you don't have enough faith. But you don't have enough faith.
So his statement that people who aren't hearing from God, I mean, it sounds to me like he's saying the way you can tell someone doesn't have enough faith is if they're not comforted by God when he doesn't answer their prayers.
Enough faith for that particular situation.
So what, your faith levels kind of just like go up and down throughout the day?
No, the different situations require different levels of faith.
All right, hold on. We're gonna get one more statement from General, and then we're gonna close out. Cause all right, so I mean,
Are we gonna have like an outro for when we close out before we continue the conversation?
I'm gonna do the outro. I don't know about you, unless you want to hijack this and just shout out a bunch of things. I don't know.
Well, I would say it would be a good idea to let everyone have some kind of quick closing statement or advertisement of their channel or something.
I'll tell you what. I'll make it be a funny one for y'all. So that but I'll give the rules later so that way it's a surprise and y'all are put on the spot.
Okay.
All right. So.
All right. Let's have some fun.
All right. So just to re-clarify, just in case, because I partly think I get it, General. What is your when it comes to the concept of faith and having what in a quantified amount? Why is it that it can't be, and that it's only just what it is, just faith itself, or as some people would say, faith alone?
Yeah. So faith in the Old Testament literally means to have a reaction to God's actions. So in the New Testament, pistis is literally trust. That's all it is. I put trust in this being because this being has done X, Y, and Z. They did the same thing. These other people in the Old Testament did the same thing to the other gods. Are you then going to say that these other gods program faith in those people? That, like, because usually the passage used to say that faith is how God instills faith is in Ephesians 2 verse 8. It says, "For by such grace you've been saved through faith, and this does not come from you; it is a gift of God." And people interpret that to mean, see, faith is a gift of God. God is the one who gives a measure of faith to each person. Then you'll have to say the same for every other deity in the ancient Near East that did the same thing. It's just the concept is alien to Paul and anyone else. Basically, it means to have trust in this being because this being has done something unconditionally. And so, in light of Christianity, which God has done the biggest thing in the entire history of mankind, and that is the death of his son on the cross for the sake of redeeming the entire cosmos. Therefore, I'm going to have faith in that being, and therefore I'm going to hence the language of clothing, baptism. I'm gonna take on some form of identification so that people will know that who I'm associated with is with that guy, not say Baal or Molech or someone else.
All right. Well, thank you for that, General. That is all the time we have for Friday Night Apologetics. That's most of these things I do anyways. I don't even know why I treat it like it's an actual regular show. Next thing I know, I'm probably doing Talking Theology Tuesdays or Thursdays. Next thing I know, maybe another one of these with a different title. Maybe next time it's going to be Ask an Apologist. Next time it's probably going to be Barbecue Roast a Calvinist. Who knows?
Wait, Ask an Apologist?
Yeah.
I'm interested in what that subject is.
Wayne, don't mute him. Dang it. Okay.
Meanie pants. I'll ask in the side chat.
Alright. So, yes. So that's what we got. We're going to close. Before we do, I would like to read a quote from a church father that I decided to make this little deal. Today's church father quote comes from Cyril of Jerusalem. So let's read what he has to say. For some of those who can't read, well, guess what? Uncle Christian Anarchist is going to help read it for you. So let's see here. This seal, thou ever on thy mind, which now by way of summary has been touched in its heads, and if the Lord grant, shall hereafter be set forth according to our power with Scripture proofs. For concerning the divine and sacred mysteries of the faith, we ought not to deliver even the most casual remark without the Holy Scriptures, nor be drawn aside by mere probabilities and the great. I should have really worked on putting these where they could be read. Artifices of argument. Do not then believe me because I tell these things, unless thou receive from the Holy Scripture the proof of what is set forth. For this salvation, which is of our faith, is not by ingenious reasonings, but by proof from the Holy Scriptures. From Cyril of Jerusalem, from the Catechol Lectures, section 4, verse 17, or something 17. Anyways, so that was that part. Yeah, so that is going to be our closing. So for the closing statements, we're just going to have everyone say their favorite one-liner. We just lost Joe because someone wanted to kidnap him, and now it was probably Nephilim free. So please be praying for Joe tonight. Anyways, so starting with, I'm going to call people's names and just say some wacky one-liner. No, I don't care if it's funny or you just shouting into the microphone for no good reason. Just we're having fun as we're taking off. So starting off, Wayne.
I'm not Jewish.
All right, Justin.
Two roads diverged in yellow wood, and so sorry I could not travel both.
All right, General.
Awake, north wind, and come, south wind, make my garden breathe out, let its fragrance flow.
That was probably 2 lines, but all right. David.
I'm confused as to why atheists concern themselves with faith.
All right. Dash.
Okay.
That's. Was that seriously a one-liner?
Teehee.
I guess.
Teehee. Oh dear Lord. All right. And finally, Anase.
Hilariously derailing one-liner.
All right, Anase, you a Nasi boy. Okay, that is all we have for tonight. So until then, the usual. Shalom Aleichem.